course yellow is deployed. Full course yellow is deployed.
Yes, hello everybody, and welcome to another edition of Full Course Yellow, coming to you from the beyond the suburban curtain here at the in Pit Lane corporate headquarters here overlooking beautiful Lake Geneva after a massive weekend of motorsport on Mount Panorama. The Bathurst 12-hour, I mean, once again, it didn't fail to live up to its reputation for action. I've got so much to talk about. I'm sitting going to read this because otherwise we're going to miss out on so much more, and then we'll chat about it in just a moment. But if you didn't see the race, the Mercedes AMG team, GMR, won an eventful McGuires Bathurst 12 hours on the weekend, giving Maxime Martin, Michael Greiner and Mauro Engel their first victory at the event. Special moment for Mauro Engel, of course, who raced supercars here in Australia. It was his 10th attempt at winning a race on the famous mountain circuit. Porsche was second with Kurong Lee, Anders Fordbach and Dorian Boccolacci also winning the Independent Cup class. The interesting thing is the winning car started from 28th place on the 34-car grid alongside the second place Porsche. Also, the highly favoured and popular team WRT BMW of Augusto Farfus, Raffaello Marciello and Valentino Rossi finished in third place. The AMG Mercedes domination continued with the Pro-Am class, with the local team of Dylan O'Keefe, Garth Walden, Brett Hobson and Mike Sheargold winning that category. Now, the much vaunted Australian debut of the Mustang GT3 unfortunately lasted only about 20 minutes into the race after Christopher Mees collided with a Kangaroo on Conrod Straight. But the biggest incident of the day came when the race was red flagged with just over 3.5 hours remaining after the race-leading Craft Bamboo AMG Mercedes of Ralph Aaron collided at high speed with the stationary Porsche of Johann Ziegler at the Dipper. There were concerning scenes after the race after the crash as the injured Aaron crawled out of his car and onto the live track. He was taken to the nearby Orange Hospital where he was diagnosed with 2 broken vertebrae. Motorsport Australia have already begun an investigation into the crash and the reaction of race control, which has drawn substantial, though sometimes ill-informed criticism online. Aaron himself has called for a meeting with race control to try and understand better what went wrong and how such incidents might be avoided in the future. Craft Bamboo also released a statement calling for a full review of flag and safety procedures at the mountain. The pole-winning All-Australian supercar lineup of Cam Waters, Chaz Mostert and Tom Randall led early before coming together with fellow Aussie Jayden Ojeda at Griffin's Bend, putting both teams out of the race. James Golding also had a big crash in his Audi, hitting the wall hard at McPhillamy Park. Will Brown and Brad Schumacher were the top local drivers home in 4th place overall in the Audi R8 they were sharing with Christopher Haas. A record crowd of 55,231 people attended the event, which continues to grow in every year. So it was an amazing event, and to talk about it, joining us this week, of course, is Craig Doc Ladigo, who was at the track with his ear to the ground, which provided quite a number of strange looks. We've got Mark Jones coming to you from Race Control in Queensland. Also coming to us, he wasn't watching too much of the race on the weekend because he was busy himself out at Sandown, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on, just briefly. And also Peter Johnson, our regular Formula One tragic, who spent the weekend watching some GT racing with the rest of us. Guys, welcome to the program.
Good evening, everyone.
Evening, Brett, Jonesy, Pete. Good to see you all, especially you, Richard. It's been a while, buddy.
Yeah. Have you two both recovered from your long weekend?
Oh, Jonesy's got me in therapy, so I'll just add that. We've been messaging a little bits and pieces other than Brett because Brett was there. So I told Jonesy that I would, because I didn't make the show last week because I was packing and getting some sleep and stuff. I said I'd give him some extra behind the BHSs, and he sent me lots of love. So thank you, Jonesy. And Brett, your answer?
Yeah, no, definitely far from it. It wasn't. I thought it might be a stupid idea, and it turned out to be a really silly idea. And I'm very much suffering for it. suffering for it now and will for the next week or two to come. So,
I broke
And
more than you.
how's the Gets going? That's all. What I want to know.
well, Getsy got me there and back.
Wow.
Fine.
Yeah. So,
It just needed a top up of fluid, which I checked on the man for him, and it's as good as gold. So Getsy's no
yeah,
problem. In fact, I did
Big
more
Gold
damage than
was-
Brett. I broke a door handle when I washed the car on Wednesday afternoon after work, and I couldn't even get in and out of my car because I broke a door handle off, and that's how bad mine was.
So there you go. But anyway, let's
You
not
put
talk
it
about that.
aside.
Let's talk about the race itself.
Mm.
And we'll get on to stuff. I mean, as we said, obviously, Doc and I were up there, and we'll bring you up to date with some of the behind the scenes stuff a little bit later on. But let's have a look at the race itself as it was seen by most of you at home. Jonesy, let's start with you. Your impressions of the 2026 McGuires Bathurst 12 hours.
Oh my goodness. This race just refuses to be in any way, shape, or form boring. It was just a fantastic watch from start to finish. There was something happening at every point. We had 13 cars on the lead lap at the end, I think. There were so many at one point, when I was posting stuff to social media throughout the race, and at one point I said, look, there's absolutely no point in discussing at the moment who's leading, who's where, because there's so many cars up front running strongly that you blink and it'll change. It was just fascinating to watch, and everybody was involved in it, even our the wall racing Lamborghini, who's discovered an extra 3 or 4 seconds a lap or something ridiculous like that after
Mapelli.
Marco Mapelli and his favorite Lamborghini engineer that he brought with him. And Grant Denyer told the story during on Saturday, I think, that Marco's engineer basically looked at all of our settings and what we're doing and said, this is all rubbish. And they retuned, rebuilt the.
He was obviously right.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Like Mapelli then put the car into the top 4 during various points in practice and qualifying, and car ran strongly for a while during the race until, unfortunately, it did lose a few laps during the race.
How old is that car? It would be probably one of the
that's-
oldest, the oldest on the grid, wouldn't it?
I think it's
some of those Audis have been have been upgraded. I think, like there were
but I think
actually
it's still
first gen
slightly
cars
older.
that have been updated. But yeah, I still think it is a bit. Yeah, I think you're right that the Lamborghini is the oldest car in the field. Although maybe the KTM might be pushing that number now as well. That they had a. This is like their third KTM, isn't it? So they've had the GT2s a few years newer than perhaps. But no, it was just awesome to watch. There was really competitive racing. Like they were fighting amongst themselves throughout the whole race, like you pointed out, Brett, during the during your recap of the race of Ojeda and was it Tom Randall? Was it in the STM car at the time when they came to grief?
No, I think it was Chaz. Chaz was driving
Chaz.
at the time,
Yeah.
No, it was Tom Randall when they span. Tom Randall when it span, and then Chaz.
Then Chaz with
Just took over afterwards. When they rejoined. But and they were fighting for, I think there was 13th at the time. They were like at the back of the lead lap, but they were fighting that hard. Everyone was, and that was the whole race. It was like, I mean, okay, we lost an hour, but the other 11 hours were a sprint race disguised as an endurance race. It was fantastic. I loved it. It's just, it was, I could just go on about this. Like I've chewed up 10 minutes or about 10 minutes already.
I think that's why I sort of said at the start of before we came on. I mean, that basically we're just going to be talking about it because we simply won't have time to talk about anything else. This could be if we just went on about this, could be almost as long as the race itself because it was just insane. And that's all. And that's just what people saw at home and what happened on the track. I mean, Doc and I have got, stuff that we picked up over the course of the weekend that,
I've got so much
all
stuff.
the
I could
track.
do 12 hours on my own, and I have no voice after half an
Oh,
hour. So
well,
it'd
we
be
know
like.
that.
However, you did say at the top of the hill on Sunday, and I said to you, "Are we going to do an FCY?" And you went, "Oh, I don't know whether I'm going to make it or not." I said, "We've got to do it. It's got to be a wrap."
Oh yeah, no. Look. I'll be honest. I did not feel like this, and I just thought there is just so we have to do this because it was just such an amazing race. We'll get onto the general stuff in later, but Pete, let's there as our sort of regular Formula One viewer. I mean, you spent the weekend or at least Sunday having a look at it as well. What were your impressions of the race?
Well, I was sorry that the KTM didn't win its class this year.
Yeah, so are they.
um, but with the craft bamboo incident, I don't know that, and I'm probably going to sound like a keyboard warrior, but I don't know that with their communication issues, they were totally exonerated, because a car before him was going markedly slower and went round and came through, and then he slammed into the Porsche. So yeah, I'm not sure that they're totally blameless.
Yeah, well, I think that's one thing that's coming out. They obviously had radio. Well, let's talk about that because it was the biggest event. Like in terms of bringing out the red flag. Although we'll get onto the Mustang later as well. But the
Probably
interesting
mention the driver first, Brett. That Aaron's okay. He's taken some social media himself in the bed today. 2 broken vertebrae, as you said at the start. So let's just say thank God first of all before we get into all the nitty gritty. He's okay. They rushed him off to Orange straight away, and he'll recover really fully. But yeah, very lucky because you could see him crawling away from the footage after the accident.
Yeah, and I think that was part of the worrying thing, because he was crawling away from there, and on what was still basically I think it was basically
active track.
That was very worrying. Look, Motorsport
Johannes
Australia
Solder's
has
okay
already.
too.
Motorsport Australia have already announced that obviously there will be a full investigation into it. I do hope. I mean, I think Ralph's been very good in many ways about this, because he's just saying, look, I'm not looking for people to blame. I would like to talk to race control and get it from them, their side. What happened, and give them my side of what, because he's just saying that he's claiming he had no idea, basically.
And Maro Ingle said he had very little warning as well, but he went in after Aaron.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing to point out, I mean, there, and I mean, Paul Van Der Acker is with us as well, and Paul's a very experienced marshal, and Richard has done his share of flagging over the years. And in terms of what the flaggies did, I mean, they basically did it to the letter of the law. People saying, they should have just thrown the red flag. You can't have individual flaggies just taking it upon themselves to go, red flag, because you get
That comes from race control.
No,
Yeah,
that must come from race.
Yeah, it must come from race control. And there's then people who are saying, well, there should be, like, I think we've got, Jared saying, here that, double yellows in trackside, wide shot footage. There were double yellows at the point, but the point is, flag marshals only control the sector that they control. They can't throw out double yellows. If there's not a double yellow situation in their particular sector, they can't just suddenly throw out double yellows for the sake of it. They can certainly go, but we've seen that before. How many times have you seen, marshals at the side of track at all levels of racing to turn around and go, like slow down, push out that way, slow down, and drivers
ignore them completely.
Ignore them completely. So, I mean, what are they going to do? It could have been, now hopefully, because of the unique nature of Mount Panorama, they might come up with something and say, okay, well, we're going to set sort of a before and after thing that you throw a double yellow at that sector, the sector before and the sector after also immediately throw double yellows.
No, what they do. Sorry, Brett, to interrupt you. They have actually in two sections, and Knackers could probably tell me which section at Bathurst they had mirror flags. So if there's a flag which comes out, the sector in front, they also do at Sandown, will give a single wave yellow, and you're meant to observe that single wave yellow, and then you would have been aware.
There's the rub.
And then you would have been able to see or be aware that to look at the next point for the double wave yellow. But the whole thing leading up to it was really bizarre. That Porsche was traveling very slow. No one seemed to be racing.
Can I interrupt you, Richard? Just briefly.
Yes, please.
Because I want you to keep going, but I just want to explain with something we've all missed, even though we're on to the flag bits. Also, the Porsche spun right, but you can actually see there's been multiple footage thrown out of it. It spun, but it was obviously not damaged. So what it did is it gently moved forward to try and correct itself, and then gently moved back a little bit. And when it moved back, that's why the Aston Martin went with caution instead of actually probably going going as fast.
Yeah, I agree.
And so when it's done the sort of the hook turn to go around it, it's done it as fast as what it could possibly have done, because it thought that the Porsche was going to reverse into it, because it did actually make a movement backwards when it found the gear. So that's obviously when the Aston Martin's gone around, done the 90-degree turn around it. The Craft Bamboo's come around as fast as he did, had no comms, as we said. There wasn't a gap down to the left because the Aston Martin was moving into it. So he's gone to the right, which was nothing there. Now, keep going.
Okay. Before the Porsche spun, he was going very slowly. Why? I'm not too certain. And everyone else
actually hit the wall himself earlier in the lap, because they made mention of an incident at
they showed it.
Right.
Yeah,
that I missed completely. And everyone else was seemed to be piss farting around. They're under green, and that they seem to be puttering around and not concentrating a lot. They're all going nose to tail and not running. Anyway, they're right. That Porsche was going very slowly, and he got turned around.
My understanding was that they couldn't do any overtaking until they crossed the control line to restart the race.
Is that right? As far as...
And that's why Damien Hamilton in the Aston Martin hadn't overtaken the Porsche. At least that's what I believe.
Well, you see, that's international rules, and different from national rules, which says once a green flag comes out, you're racing.
And I think that's part of that. In some cases, that's part of the problem, because in the media conferences and in a lot of interviews I've seen with a lot of the international drivers, and also stuff that Doc and I sort of picked up in the media centre with some of the international journalists and others who shall remain nameless, is there was a sense of certain frustration about the way things. This is the way we do things in Australia, mate. And you're in Australia, so you do them. Where they were going, this is in a whole. This is not just on the track. This is off the track as well, in a whole range of issues where people were going, yeah, this is not how it's. It's similar, but it's not quite the same. And there are some issues with some of the international drivers going. It's a little confusing because we race under basically the same set of regulations right around the world.
Elsewhere.
Yeah, and then we come here and there's different little things that we get, like told off for. It's like, but we do that everywhere else. It's like, well, everywhere else isn't here, pal. So,
And some drivers on the coverage said that. Some drivers, when they were interviewed, said that.
Bathurst 87, anyone?
Yeah, so that was it. Paul saying again, wave through, cannot overtake until they get to the start line to take a restart.
And then what I thought about was, is there an argument for saying, if you've got communication issues, are you racing an unrace-worthy car? But then that would decimate half the field at the 1,000, and especially last year, if we get inclement weather, the communications can be iffy in the 1,000. So that would decimate, again, half the field.
I
So
agree with you
I don't
totally,
think
Pete. I had a forum about 10 people, and half of them are flaggies, half are journalists, and etc. like that. And they were all putting their 10 cents in. It's a bit like us, but a little bit more animated after the race. And they all went in, and I actually brought up exactly what you said. I let them all go, and I said, okay, everyone's mentioned everything about all the different aspects of it, but I know it was the only car, but I was sitting up in the media centre for a break at one stage, and for about an hour, hour and a half, and I went out there just from fresh air, which you overlooked the pit lane and overlooked the main straight at the front, and I was watching the Craft Bamboo guy, the obviously team member, out there quickly putting the board out, changing all the stuff on it, putting the pit board out again for it every time it went around, put it around again, okay, or plan C, or fuel, and I was watching all the ones, and I'm thinking, I can't remember who was driving at the time. I'm thinking, okay, but then obviously a couple of hours later, what's happened? But I agree with you, Pete. When all this hoo-ha was going on, I just said, I know it ruins their race, and I said, obviously we'll completely stuff them, but I said, it's the only car that comms out for the day. Do you pull them in give them a black flag them, pull them in, make them fix their communications, they can't go back out until they're working again.
And I also thought that they had a monitor in the car or a readout in the car whenever there's a yellow flag flown.
I'm not sure whether that's in that. That's certainly you certainly obviously get it in Formula One. You obviously get it in WEC. I'm not sure about whether that applies in SRO rules racing. I know that I know most of the cars have got it. I did hear from a couple of experienced drivers who saying that it's not the most reliable system in the world in terms of delays, and sometimes it comes on and sometimes it doesn't come on, but it's better than nothing. But that certainly would have made. And then what are they going to show? I mean, it's like, well, it's like Nathan's saying here that like perhaps there needs to be another sort of flag that just basically, instead of yellow, and that means that means slow right down. I mean, that's what we've got. A double yellow does mean slow right down.
Or be prepared to stop, and that's
the other suggestion is put more lights around the track. Yellow, red, and green ones, like they do at better intervals, so that actually a standard of warning as well too. As another thing, add lights.
And
there are lights at Bathurst.
I can remember a couple of years ago at the 1,000. That's when they first brought them in a couple of years ago.
And that's what I was saying about mirror points and additional lights. But do you see how far down Bamboo crashed into the Porsche from the previous flag point? It wasn't very far, 30 metres, if you're lucky, might be 40.
That's the problem with the circuit with a lot of blind corners. You have to have
exactly
flag points at much shorter intervals.
That's again mirrors or lights. Which are another at least 50 metres up the track. But then again, I remember a year or two ago, someone piling into another car which was a broadside across the track. It had to be 15 seconds later. I mean, it was at Reed Park. They were using that on the commentary. Isn't it risky, dangerous? Yeah. I said, well, shouldn't have been. The flags were out for at least 10 seconds before he cleaned him up.
See, Paul,
yeah.
The Code 60. I like Code 60. Creventic used that. They were sort of the people who pioneered and brought it in, and it seems to work very, very well there. It's just when something like that happens, it's like, Code 60, and everybody just, basically goes on the pit limiter and for the whole track, and it just slows everything down at the same time, and people don't get advantages provided they do the right thing, or disadvantages. It's like, the moment that track there's a track, something, sideways at the dipper or somewhere like that, or on a blind corner, they've got there, it's like, for race control, Code 60, bang, done.
Or like then at the Nürburgring for NLS and the 24-hour, where they have localized code 60s at the point of incident.
Once again, once again, this is Paul saying this. As I said, Paul's obviously very, very experienced as a marshal in all sorts of areas. So bring back the stationary yellow to cover minor off-track stuff and pre-warn for waved yellows. 3 levels of yellows. Now, anything half decent gets double yellows rather than being used occasionally. And I think that's the problem, is they wave it used to be like a double yellow didn't come out very. You'd go to race meeting after race meeting and never see a double yellow waved. Back in there, you'd see yellows because people saw a yellow and they slowed down and they were ready. And if you saw a double yellow, then you went, "Whoa, hang on, that's serious." Now it's like the yellow. They go, "Oh yeah, okay, I'm not going to slow down. I'm just not going to pass anybody, but I might be able to make up a bit of an advantage here. If I can get a bit close." I remember one driver. I better not say who it is, but one driver who raced overseas quite extensively, who told me that when he was racing in Europe, he was basically doing what he was doing in Australia, and basically when he saw the yellow, and he was specifically told by his team boss, "What are you doing? Why did you slow down?" He said, "Well, there were yellows out there." He said, "I don't care what's out there. You don't slow down until I tell you to slow down."
Okay, can I a couple of years ago, Excel's turn 1, Sandown, 2 cars entered the trap and both cars rolled. Immediately they had trucks, recovery vehicles on the circuit and marshals, and double waved yellows. I lifted off, not a lot, but I lifted off coming into turn 1 and I almost got hit from behind.
Yeah, a lot of people complain about that. They just, why did you slow down? There was a yellow. So,
double yellow with lots of marshals, 3 or 4 trucks, and they're into it.
Shame on you, Richard.
They're not overtaking, but they're not buttoning off one little bit.
And once again, that comes down to sort of, Motorsport Australia and eventually the clerk of course and race control sort of turning around and taking note of that sort of thing and dragging some of those kids in and saying like, listen, giving them a stiff talking to. Also, Paul saying AASA used the code 40 and were able to grab a stranded car in less than half a lap. So a similar sort of thing, just keep everybody at a slow pace, at a reasonable pace. The cars keep going around. The marshals can get out and do what they need to do. If necessary, if the situation is bad enough that they've got to stop out on the track, they get round and the track is completely blocked. If they're going at 40 or even 60 k's an hour, chances are they're going to be going to stop. The terrifying thing was, I didn't see the incident live because I was comatose sitting at the side of the road, trying to revive myself, and I heard it happening. Like I heard the commentary through, Radio Le Mans through with John and Richard and Garth Tander, and congratulations to them. I think they did a great job again. But anyway,
I caught up with GT as I was heading to the supercars truck, and I actually he was walking. We were just no one else around, walking side by side, and I said great call, GT, and he said thank you. So yep, I appreciate it. Gave him our thanks.
Yeah, I think he has been. I've said before. I mean, when he came on the show, perhaps because he was young and all that, but if you'd have said, he's going to be a really good commentator one day, I'd have gone, oh, yeah, sure.
He's improving bit by bit year, Brett. I reckon he's just. And as he said on the week, obviously we're at the track and we hear all the commentary across for 12 hours with his breaks. He has learnt as well too. I reckon better than the last 2 years than he has previously. This year, in the last 6 months, something like that, he realises less is more. He also has learnt that he doesn't have to bring up racing or his own experience sometimes. He actually just gives the facts of what's going on as well too. Gives him his insight.
That's the difference.
And there's no hyperbole. And he doesn't repeat what we've just seen. He analyses it.
Yeah, I think he did. I think they did a great job. And I know that they've got. Obviously he's joining the. He's basically taking over Scafey's role in there, and they're going to rotate the rotating. I wouldn't. I don't mind too much them rotating. Personally, I wouldn't. I would just put Crailsey in charge of running. And Chad Nayland, I don't think Chad Nayland's a good commentator, but I think he's a really, really good pit reporter.
Yes.
I think that's his go. I think he does. He sees things, and for someone who isn't like an experienced racer, he's clearly an experienced fan and somebody who understands the sport. Because on many occasions they will go to him and he'll say, "Hang on a second, guys. I saw something here," and it's like, "Oh no, you're right. That's interesting." And that's
if
what
you want to use the
analog
analog, Brett, of a AFL boundary rider, but so he's better than that. But he reads the play. That's the point. Yeah. Is that probably a good analogy, Brett?
No, I think he does a really, really good job of that. And that, if I was producing the thing, they'd definitely be my three, sort of, Crailsey, Richard, and Chad in the pits with probably Rihanna doing interviews.
Well, his nickname. Remember, he got that at the end of last season. And the other thing we saw, if you were watching the coverage, but I was nearby when it happened, but I didn't actually see it. I saw it on the TV around the corner from me. He got the full kiss on Sloppy from Grant Denyer. He did. He's grabbed him by the shoulders and the head like that, and he just kissed him fair on the lips, not on the cheek. Not here, not a hug. Not a hug.
I didn't see that. I wish I'd seen that.
He grabbed him by the ears or something similar to that, and full on pashing.
He's a loose unit, that Denyer.
Grant is.
Oh, you guys will be happy too. I found out my problem on my screen was fuzzy. I need backlight.
Yeah.
It's not fuzzy anymore.
Well, we all need backlight. Yeah, I mean, green screen works much better with backlight, and it needs.
I didn't have the light. I didn't have the light on in the room.
Yeah. Anyway, let's keep moving because we've got lots to talk about because there was other stuff. Let's talk about we had the big talking point, and it was the thing on when I got there on the Wednesday. I got there sort of late-ish on Wednesday. Had a hell of a time setting up the tent. Eventually got to so I didn't do much, but Thursday, and I'm glad I went the day early because I went for the first time to the track to town. That was brilliant. That is like really, if you're going to the Bathurst 12-hour next year, try and get there a day early and go to the track to town. It was fantastic. It was packed. The drivers were brilliant. They did a fabulous job of putting the thing on. It was just, absolutely first class. And the thing that everybody in the town was talking about, the people who normally don't have any great interest in the 12-hour, they were all saying the same thing. Oh, there's Ford versus Chev this year. There's a Mustang and there's Corvettes this year. And as soon as the Mustangs and the Corvettes turned up in the track to town, the crowd went crazy. Unfortunately, if you turned up at 5:45 in the morning to see that amazing start, and with the hope of saying, are we going to have a day of great racing seeing the new Mustang, you were very disappointed because what's that, Skip? You want to have a look at a close-up Mustang? There's one over there.
On that, before we get into the main issue of that, I was reading Juice's FB post this afternoon too. At the same time, he either missed that same route or missed another one because he reported he had one about the same time as what Mees did.
And Valentino Rossi said he nearly hit one.
Yeah. And it was really funny because, to be honest with you, it's the first time I've been to Bathurst. I didn't see a single route anywhere. Like, even on the Wednesday, I'm walking around, trying to get sort of my legs back again, hobbling around the back of the, because I was really in a lovely spot in terms of
it
was, and normally when you look out over that side of down the other side of the mountain, it's just a sea of roofs. And there was nothing there.
I need to interrupt because, Pete, I want to explain what you just said. So I was, unfortunately, only one out of five of us here for the presser afterwards. When all the 9 drivers were asked about their race and so forth, one of the questions that probably Valet spoke half his thing about was, okay, we noticed that you missed the route as well too, like you just said, Pete. But they said, what's your opinion on it? He says, well, I've been coming to Australia for donkey's years. And he said, obviously, there's animals down at Phillip Island. And he said, I've been at Bathurst, 4 years now. He said, it's just part of it. He said, I don't really think there's as much what measures people can really do about it. He said, it's just part of the landscape. We move on. That's what Valet said.
Yeah, I mean, and as we saw, I mean, like in the interview we did, when we were lucky enough to go with him on Saturday evening, when we sat
a round table with 8 of us was brilliant.
And we sat around with him, and it was very clear from his comments. He loves the track. He loves that. As we reported on the Impit Lane Facebook page today as well, in response to a question that I asked late in the day, I just sort of, because we were sort of limited to what we could ask, and it was just, and then he was so relaxed and he was so there was sort of a bit of a chat, very quick chat afterwards, and I just asked him about Phillip Island, and he sort of said the same sort of thing. It's like, he said that, his exact words were, it has a magic and it's very much like this, but it's very much like Bathurst. It's unique, it's Australian. Yes, there's the wildlife. Yes, there's, at Bathurst it's kangaroos. At Phillip Island it's Cape Barren geese and seagulls and the occasional wallaby perhaps and hares. But whatever it is, I mean, it does go with the territory. And for all these people saying, they need to put up kangaroo-proof fences around the whole...
Well, I don't know if Brett, but on those, we travelled the same road yesterday between Gunby and Albury. I saw 3 wombats on the side of the fresh. There were 3 wombats.
Well, I actually had... Yeah, I mean, the problem is with me between, I find the drive between Bathurst and Gundagai is a gothic horror story. It is waking fright territory.
Jesus, Richard! How much coke you got with your whiskey there?
It's not that bloody bad.
No, it is.
It'll be coming out of his nostrils in a minute. Then we'll know.
Have you ever been stuck for an hour and a half in the Wombat pub?
No, I just drive. I don't try and stop.
Yeah, that sounds scary, actually.
Unfortunately,
is that like the Ed Hogan pub in the Wyatt tabletop?
Oh, no. This isn't a tourist trap.
It's up for sale, by the way, if you want to buy it.
I saw that. I saw the for sale sign.
Look, I'll be honest, the people were fantastic. I mean, they saw I was in trouble. They really helped out. They said, and in fact, literally, they just said, no. I started, and they said, where are you going? No, you're not moving anywhere. Have it. And as one guy said, and it was the most sensible thing there, he went, what you need, mates, an Indian tonic water, a bloody big one. And I went, oh, no, he's probably right. And I got an Indian tonic water, a big schooner there, which they didn't charge me for. They were very nice. But they were literally like the table, there were ants everywhere. There was just, it was like,
Did the ants serve you your big tonic water? They brought it out to you, did they?
No, but they wanted to drink it because it was the only, I couldn't get, anyway. I hate that part. I hate that part of the trip.
You know what you need, Richard? You need an Indian tonic water, Richard.
You know what is that people watching the Bathurst 12 are going to think this is Hicksville. I mean, kangaroos crashing in the cars. They're going to say, what's this movie Waking
Wombat Stew.
Yeah. Yeah, but anyway, it was...
Lucky we're on the Western Ring Road today. It was bloody on fire. Anyway, that's another story.
Stopping the kangaroos, and what people need to... What a lot of people forget is Mount Panorama is not a racetrack. Mount Panorama is a road, a street road. People live around Mount Panorama.
Kenny Bull's dog escaped.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah. And the dachshund's so small it could fit under the fence.
Yeah, they said that. Well, the dog could fit under there. Then next to him, half an hour later, look, the dog's under the fence. Luckily, it was red flag.
Dog was quickly rescued.
Yeah, so
Scooped up into a cuddle and carried off back to.
But
I saw that.
Chris Mees saying that maybe start the race later. In the 1000 last year, Kai Allen's near miss was in the afternoon.
Yeah, that's the flip side of it, isn't it? Like if you remove the race from the sunrise, then you're putting it into the sunset, and kangaroos are just as active in either scenario. So
the only advantage is it might be so that in some cases it would be perhaps easier to see them because obviously you've got tunnel vision with all of that. And I mean quite clearly Christopher had zero idea that there was anything there. It was like I haven't seen the in-car footage, but people who did say that it was just he's driving along and suddenly bang, there was just basically red everywhere.
I hope he's getting all sorts of protective injections. Like tetanus and all sorts of bloody things.
Well, that's what he said. I loved it. He's kept his sense of humour. I loved his line because he said, he said I suddenly found myself. He said, covered in blood and whatever it is that kangaroos eat. He said, tell it doesn't smell. But he also pointed out, he said that before he came here, his son at home said, "Daddy, please bring me back a stuffed kangaroo." No, he's getting a wombat or a koala. He's not under any circumstances getting a bloody kangaroo.
Brett knows this one. So I apologise to the chief for a second, but because I talked to him afterwards. So I had the luxury of being within probably about 100 metres of the pits. The scrutineering where the cars were all brought back in the flatbed. And I won't go into the details of the car and all that sort of stuff because there was 7 were all hovering all over it and all the other photographers and that. So I actually stood back. I did a little 2-second video before it from a distance before they put the cover off the flatbed. But just as an indication, I had one of the 4 mechanics / engineer, pit crew member, whatever he was of those 3, standing next to me full in his suit but without the helmet and everything off. And he was standing there and he was just watching it with me. And I said to I hear these little noises to my left a little bit because he's standing right next to me. I look across and he looked a little bit distraught, and he made a couple more noises, and he's wiping the tears away from his eyes, and he's sort of rubbing his eyes and over his face and stuff like that. And I no, I won't. I said, he goes, oh. He says, I can't stand the smell. And I said, are you okay? Because I've got a couple more seconds to go by and faint at one stage. He was really distraught because what he meant was, I'm not going to go into the details, I'll describe it for you, Pete. You could not smell any of the car, the tyres, the oil, the damage to the car, anything like that. All you can actually smell was a dead animal. That's how bad.
The immortal words of Han Solo in one of the Star Wars films, I thought they smelled bad on the outside.
Yes, I know. Sliced it open and hopped inside like the one, yeah.
Yeah, so it was it was a shame. I mean, it also pointed out, as a few people have said, is that why Ford was going, Mark Rushbrook, whatever his name, I keep saying Westbrook or Rushbrook, whatever, the head of Ford Racing, he was there, and there was much, this is a very important race to us, this is something we've been looking forward to for many, many years, and this is, it's like, well, why'd you bring one car? There were 2 Corvettes, so there was, perhaps you could, if you'd have found another one, perhaps that car wouldn't, because it was running well. There was no doubt about it. It was no surprise because people, in the press conference, the presser on Saturday, the guys there were saying the Mustang and the Corvette were like really, really fast up the in the run up the hill. Well, of course, they're big V8s, and that's their raison d'etre. That's where they've got their strength, and that is the beauty of this race. You've got all these different sorts of cars, all these different manufacturers. They've all got different vehicle dynamics. Some of them are really, really fast in some parts of the track, not quite so fast in other parts of the track, and ultimately it makes for really, really good racing.
And the team that was running the Mustang, Hout Racing, German team, they've won Nürburgring enduros with the Mustang, so they know how to get the best out of the car. And on a circuit, that's probably the closest analogy to across the top of the mountain.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, like as Paul's saying, Misa's lucky to be alive. Or that and that.
He is. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that could have been, and once again, that's the thing about remember the controversy over the so-called Larry bar when like, they basically said no, you can't have that, and Larry was saying, well, like it probably saved Craig Lowndes from some very serious,
definitely did, yeah,
if not worse. And when you have a look at it, I mean, there's really nothing much to stop a Roo. If a Roo isn't thrown over the top, as in this case, and lots of people. If you have a look, I'm sure there's statistics somewhere. There's plenty of people around Australia who aren't with us anymore because they've been in an accident and a roo's come through the window.
Well, when Jimmy Richards was racing for Castrol, had the Larry bar come in then? Because he hit a kangaroo at Bathurst.
I think it had been and gone by that point.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I don't think I think it was a case of because if you're lucky, it hits it and it goes up high enough to get nothing, or it goes to the side or something. This was just a flat-on hit, and it just came straight into the
Cockpit.
the cockpit. I think it depends on at what height the roo is when you hit it. I mean, the roo's if the roo's sort of mid jump, you're going to basically hit it at that level, but. Yeah, look, it was a real shame. It was a beautiful car. I mean, we had as close a look at it as we could. Before we move on with that, any other thing? I think congratulations to the Quinn family. I got to say
That was good.
Ryder Quinn's lap on Saturday was
actually
very impressive.
Go to Quins first, and I'll go after you because I got one too.
I was down there at one stage with, and you've not seen a happier group. And Tony Quinn was the happiest man that I think I've ever seen anywhere. He was just so proud. He had all his family around him. He had all his friends. They were all dressed in identical gear. It'll be interesting. Greg Rust, who we were sitting next to in the media centre, Greg Rust was there specifically.
Poor Rusty had to put up with us.
Well, he didn't put up with us long. I mean, because he moved away pretty quickly, but
I think he'd done his job. That's why.
He was there basically. He was there with his
Following.
Basically following the Quins for the week to do a documentary for somewhere. I will definitely be looking forward to watching that because it was just everybody was just there, and he was the happiest man I've ever seen. And it was interesting.
Well, the whole family was providing entertainment. They were had music going. They were doing dances. So
flash mob.
They were doing flash mobs. So they were probably doing social media left, right, and centre. Yeah. I actually spoke to Tony too, like Brett did, and when I got him at a quiet time, and I just went up and he was leaning on something, and I was leaning on something. And I got 4 helmets. The other one was just to the side. I think I sent those to you, Jonesy. He had 3 or 4 of the helmets, and they were all lined up in purple, and they all had like their little bits and pieces of funny stuff on it. And I just leaned on him. I said, "How you going, mate?" And he's going, "Really damn good, really good," or something like that. And I said, "How's the weekend going so far?" Because it was earlier on. He goes, "Just having a ball, mate. Just having some fun. Just going to go out there and have some fun."
And when he finished his stints, stints on Sunday, he was interviewed, and he said, "Look, I'm the slowest out there, and I probably should hang up my boots, but I don't want to. And we won't be the last, and we won't be the first, but I'm having a lovely time."
Yeah, it was a great story. It was a terrific story. Also, congratulations! I mean, in qualifying, I mean, we had a really good news story in terms of the local, the local lads with Cam Waters putting their All Australian crew on pole and showing sort of their speed there. It was interesting once again during the chat with Valentino, and in fact it was Doc asked him the question about sort of drivers that the drivers and riders that he like really admired and that he was he thought was important. And one of the people he said like towards the end he said locally Chas Mostert I really admire Chas Mostert. So he's got a big opinion of Chas. Unfortunately, it was once again John Bowe sort of intimated this on one of his posts on Facebook
Mark
as
Yellow,
well.
he admires still, and he's driving next to him.
Yeah, he's driving next to him, but he said of the locals and of the other people, like particularly around Bathurst, Chad was one the person that he had a lot of time, a lot of respect for. But John Bowie sort of intimated that like they were really, really quick, really impressive. All three of them, all of the supercar drivers, they lost nothing. But ultimately, and we see it almost every year, ultimately it's the internationals who have just got the consistency, the pace, the skill, whatever. I mean, the first of the locals home was Will Brown and Brad Schumacher, the amateur driver. They came home in fourth place in the Audi. Most of the more vaunted, James Golding had that big crash. Kai Allen had a few mistakes when he went there. Tom Randall had the spin. We had Jaden Ojeda and Chad came together. I'm just wondering whether this is an indication that in terms of supercars, we have nowhere near enough long distance races in there. They've become sprint race specialists. They're really, really fast over that. But basically, they race sort of one semi long distance race with the 500, whether it's at Sandown or the Bend, and then they have one genuine endurance race at Mount Panorama a year, and that's it.
Yeah. Well,
and they're not in the same equipment.
There's several, like the 500k format, not the Bend version, but when the other races that they call a 500, where they have a 250k race each day. I mean, that's still a fair whack of distance. And at a place like Adelaide, for example, that's a hard slog.
It's not that they don't have the same. It's not just one race. I mean, it's 250, and they might lap, a handful of cars once in an entire 250 race. Whereas at something like the 12-hour, they might lap some of the slower cars 4, 5, 6 times during the race. They've got to learn that. That's what Anthony Davison. I remember an interview with Anthony Davison at Le Mans one year that I was there, and where he basically he'd come fresh out of Formula One, and he said, I had to have the arrogance knocked out of me, because he said I had this I'm going, there's half a gap there, I'm going for it, I'm racing to win, you get out of my way. And he said, I had to sort of understand that they're racing themselves. They're just not going to sort of step aside and let me through, because they're worried about, they let me through, the guy they're actually racing with is going to follow me through, and they lose the position. So he had to sort of, he said, I had to really start thinking about other things and other people in other sorts of cars that I never ever had to think about before in a race.
And the other issue is, previously the 1000 was a true endurance race in that it had classes like the 12-hour does. And when they got rid of them, a lot of the younger ones who just started were saying, thank goodness. And,
Yeah, well, it's funny because Valentino said that in an interview during in the lead up. Well, I think it might have been when we were talking again earlier in the day. I think it was in response to a question by Paul Gover, where he talked about the fact that he's not running the WEC program this year with WRT, and he's just basically running the SRO and some of the other GT thing. And he was saying how that he personally preferred that because he was a lot more comfortable. He could concentrate more on what he was doing because he said with the hypercars, he said, I was you can never relax because there's always suddenly there's something bearing down. You see the lights and it's like oh, what is that? Oh my God! And it's gone past you. Like, wow, like, oh, that was a hype. He said it was very. He said I feel a lot more comfortable being and a lot more focused, being able to just concentrate on GT cars, where in a race which is all GT cars. So as much as but he also said later in response to some questions that obviously if they ever said, would you like to race the BMW prototype at Le Mans or anywhere else for that matter, he said yes, of course I'd say yes, but
Brett, can I spoiler alert for all of us viewers and listeners on Full Course Yellow? Just a little tidbit, a little one if I can, Brett, that you and I were enough, because Brett will put a package together, all the stuff that we did on the weekend. Just a highlight, Brett said he on Sunday, it's before Sunday lunch, we're about 20 minutes short, 64 gig over the weekend up to that point, and I did a fair bit on my own phone in 4K on Sunday afternoon, so I know we definitely tipped over 64. But a little spoiler, and I hope I'm not going to get back on the wrist from Brett in this, but two of the three interviews we did, one was the valet one, and the other one we were lucky enough to get Vincent, the team principal. He's also co-owner and comes from. They're all based in Belgium and just took over North Carolina and USA for the WRT things. But Brett did, and we were lucky. We won't go into the fun stuff and all the other stuff we got into, but Brett sort of threw it out there just like we did valet and said, valets was around the round table. Do you love you coming here each year? Brett said, a couple of other teams have wound up, they win it, they stop doing. What's your plans? And Vincent basically said, no, I can foresee. I'm co-owner. We're coming here for the next 10 years, and that was the same with valet, with our little round table hut and question time. He said, I'm coming here for all, something along those lines. I love coming to Australia. I have my birthday. That's the way it goes, and I love coming here for 10 years. Now, quick shout out. Just want to finish it up because of what we were talking about before, and we're talking about cars and underperforming and overperforming. How about, as Brett mentioned, the second for the 911 GT3 from, what was it? It was
High
from
class.
High Class Racing, the
yeah.
Boccacelli, the Fjordbach, and the K. Lee. They are bronze drivers. Now, I just want to quickly mention, which no one got to see, there was about 150 of us all squeezed together like sandwiches underneath the podium as it was being done, and I guarantee all of us got half a bottle of champagne. Literally, all the drivers, and they didn't care, just sprayed us, and they weren't going for their teams either. They just absolutely. We're in the eyes from the champagne, having to wipe it out because everyone thought we were crying. You literally was just trying to get the champagne out. But on the other hand, Mr. K. Lee was, before he went up on the podium, and was bawling his eyes out when they came into 1, 2, 3 in their positions. He was absolutely emotional and managed to get himself together up before he got up on top of the podium, top the presentation. And the other one I want to yell out to, and I'm not being biased because I was a big fan of him on the weekend, was Team KRC in the satellite BMW, Hesse, Houston, and Rouen, and they're bronze drivers as well. So you've got second and fifth drive bronze, and they made the, so it's a race for everybody.
And that's that's the thing. That's why it's more like the original Bathurst 1000. I mean, you've got your professionals there, but you've also got like your hardcore so-called gentleman racers, your amateurs, your part-timers, your people like your Kenny Habor,
Your Lansvale Smash Repairs.
Yeah, yeah. So you've got all that sort of thing, and it adds to the lot. So look, I thought it was we better wrap things up in a second, and we'll just go quickly with a couple of other things before we go. But I just want to say, and I'm sure Doc will back me up on this one. One of the special things about the Bathurst 12 Hours, apart from all the things we've mentioned, is to be a really good race meeting, you've got to have really, really good people. And I have to say, the people at Bathurst in general, running the event, from the people in the car park, the ticket sellers, just everybody, the guys and girls in the media centre are absolutely magnificent. They're the best people. They use common sense. They're glad to see you every year. It's just you're made to feel very welcome. It's a really good atmosphere there, and a lot of other tracks could learn from, because just the attitude. Even like when they said no, I mean, it was like, we turned up on, and Doc knows we parking is always a problem for the media. We turned up early in the part of the week, and it was just, obviously there's not a packed thing, and it was like, where do we park? And it's like, I don't know. It's like, I didn't see anything, mate. Just, so, and then when things got there, well, on the Saturday, it was, bro, we've been told no. I know it's really sorry. There's nothing we've spoken to it, and it made you go, okay,
we played
no
ball.
worries.
Get back a step, Brett. You got premium on the Friday, and I got priority. You got the top step.
Well, nobody. Well, I came the back way. You see, that was
premium.
I got pole
premium
position.
parking.
I got pole position because I came the back way and no one saw me coming. So
no one ever sees Brett coming.
Can you imagine this little red Getsy in between all these Mercedes and BMWs and Bentleys and all that sort of stuff? And I just go, just like a clown car. It'll do. Sorry, mate, I didn't mean to hit the door.
Anyway, before we go,
it wasn't like that, but he did get premium, and I only got priority, and then there's GA after that. Anyway.
We will have to ask, because like as I said, while a couple of us were focused on what was happening around Mount Panorama, one of us was actually at another great Australian racetrack racing, and Paul is desperate to find out, Richard, why the DNF in race 1 at Sandown on the weekend in the Excel.
Well, it was basically I hadn't fitted many XL motors before, and I didn't put one of the little clips over the crank sensor, and so it unplugged, and so I was put right to the back of the field, and so I got 13 spots back on race 2, so I was quite happy with that.
Well done.
And
TV cameras saw you pull off a really nice overtake into turn 2.
Oh yeah,
in the first race on car 27.
We went side by side 1, 2, 3, and 4 without touching each other, which was quite good. Wasn't as good on race 3 because it got hot and I had to put a cool suit in. 10 kilo. I could. I lost 3 spots. I couldn't hold them off down the front straight or the back straight, because obviously that 10 kilo was a bit of an anchor. But we live and learn. And I'm running a stock motor.
And have fun doing it.
I had fun, yes.
And that's the main thing. Nobody got hurt, and no kangaroos.
No red flags. And just like in when I was a little kid, I got a participation award.
Hey,
and Jenny wins the prize.
Yes.
Was a little plush
koala. A photo of me I can show to my parents when I get home. Yeah, that would be a miracle.
Those little blue or red ribbons or something. You put a pin safety shirt with.
Motorsport doesn't stop. Remember that coming up this weekend down at Phillip Island is the opening round of the World Superbike Championships. Ducati's dominating at the 2 days of testing. So that's coming up this weekend. And as we said,
the other half coming up.
Yeah, so we've got supercars happening at
the other half of
Sydney Motorsport. So lots.
Actually, Brett, Brett and I were both driving our different ways back to McGuires Transporter. Went past the opposite way on the way to Sydney yesterday, I noticed.
To Sydney, yeah. Yeah, so that was so they
didn't have a car at Bathurst this year.
No, they didn't. Although Barry Ryan was there and was very angry with
yeah.
But
That's one
also,
of my photographer friends said to me at the time, Barry Ryan doing Barry Ryan things.
Barry Ryan things. But
It
I'll just
was all right to
quickly
me.
on
He
the
said
super-
when I said hello to him, he was good as gold. But anyway,
the supercars were up there, all three of them, and I got a really good close-up look and a bit of a look. I got lots and lots of footage, close-up footage of the new Toyota Supra. Beautifully constructed car, looks really good in the flesh. The engine sounds really good, I thought anyway. I think it sounds terrific. So it's going to be, the interesting thing was talking to the guy, one of the guys from Walkinshaw Racing. And he sort of said to you, they were a little bit. He said, we're sort of expecting. I mean, brand new car, brand new engine. Teething problems. We were expecting. This is going to be a bit of a challenge for a while. And it just hasn't happened. He said it has gone very, very smoothly. He said we're really just impressed with the way the whole thing has come together. He says obviously there's a lot of hard work, but they've put it all together.
their Supra was launched today as well too.
Yeah, I think it's a good-looking car. The interesting thing is going to be, and it was interesting because another engineer was there when we were looking at it. That's a very, very, that engine in that car is a very, very tight fit, and the way the bonnet is, because it's a very sort of, it's a very tiny bonnet. You open it up and you have a look inside. There's very, very little room to get hands in there to do any decent work. And it was like, I wouldn't like to be, getting in there. And one of the other engineers said, have you had overheating problems with that thing? And he went, no, not, we haven't.
Not yet.
Not yet. The interesting thing is, it came with the way the regulations are with supercars is they've had to 3D print the inlet manifold for the engine out of plastic because the regulations apparently say that it's got to come with basically what the road cars come with, and in the case of both the Mustang and the Camaro and the road-going version of the Supra, they come with basically a plastic induction manifold, and the race car apparently turned up with a nice carbon fibre one, and they went, no, you've got to change that. So they've printed up their own version of the manifold. The engine looks really good, but I was just surprised at how much access I got, because I thought, I'm going to be waving a camera in front of this thing. I'm going to be all over it. Let's see how long it lasts. And it was no problem. Ross Gibb, the well-known supercar photographer, was alongside. He was taking lots and lots of photos as well and chatting away to the people there. And it was no problem at all. So, look,
I suppose to some extent, it's the same engine that powers the Lexus RCF in GT3 racing. So it's an existing engine. It's pretty well known. I suppose there's not that much in the way of secrets to be had.
Yeah, and I think that's it. But sometimes they play silly buggers. It's like the old days. And I said to Doc this about it's the old thing that HRT used to do when they put like in the early days when they put covers over their wings and all the rest of it. And I remember saying to Larry at Calder at one stage, what's the go with the cover? And I said, what's the secret squirrel stuff over at HRT with their?
I can imagine what the response was.
Yeah, and he said, God, he said they're control parts with 3 expletive deleted settings. He said you pull up alongside, you look over and go, setting 2. He said, but he said, so it's all theatrics and all the rest. And there was none of this going on, so that was really good. Didn't see much of the support races. Brad Shields in that Fiat, they allowed a bit more speed out of it. He got down to a 205, I think, which is a seriously quick, for something that was basically more or less built in a backyard. This thing was really, really.
In comparison, your GT3s are doing, almost flat 2s, and he's only 5s off.
Yeah, and this is a Fiat 124 body with a turbocharged rotary in it. Home, so it was fabulous performance there.
And he had to do it without power steering in race one. He had to pop the spinach and Popeye's way around to get the car home in the first race, and he still won it.
Yeah, so great driving and congratulations to Joe said that. Joe, really nice guy, Joe, and a great team, very friendly. They often, I mean, even they come from sort of Sydney, so I wouldn't have thought that they'd have, but Joe came up and said hi and asked about the show and all sorts of this. So this was, like last year at Sandown. He's just a really nice guy and a really good team.
There's some dramas in the Ferrari Challenge.
Well, I was talking to some probably fellow neighbours of yours up there, Jonesy, in Queensland, and they said had never had the opportunity to watch it or listen to it or something like that. But we know of your shows still down there. It's great stuff as well too. So thank you to all your neighbours. Thank you, Jonesy.
Yeah, so we
actually they all whinged. They had a whinge. Sorry, they said we should bloody get Channel 31 up here as well too. They cut it off years ago.
Well, they used to.
Well, we used to actually be on 31, as I tell the story. It's just we didn't know about it. I was up at the Gold Coast Grand Prix, and people were yelling out in pit lane, and I said, "Oh, geez, there's so many people from Melbourne up, and so many people who watch the show." And someone said, "Oh yeah, watch every Friday night at 6:30," and it's like, we're not on at 6:30. Yeah, you are up here. That didn't last because what I found out is not only did we not know they were showing it, what we didn't know, and I was quite happy for them to show it, what I wasn't happy about was it was being renamed Welcome to Sid Chrome's in pit lane.
Yeah, and you weren't getting nothing.
We got nothing, so it's like you're not doing that, guys. So
come on, you can't hand a man a grand to spanner.
Fuck this.
Depends what you use it for.
What was the old thing in the 12th man? The Sid Chrome Super Test team where they selected all the players that looked most like spanners.
I love this. This is very Larry. Talking rear wings, one year at Bathurst, Larry left the rear of his car sticking out of the garage and deliberately had the rear wing adjusted differently from left to right side. Attracted a lot of other teams' attention. I could just imagine that. No,
just imagine Larry around. You can imagine a little spot too, looking at having a look who's. Yeah, you look at Larry. He'd be about 20 metres away, just looking at who's watching it. Who am I going to get?
Yeah, who's watching? Absolutely pissing himself.
Yeah.
Oh yes, that's good. Hey, listen, guys. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, we better go.
Shout out, Scott Andrews in qualifying. Amazing lap.
Yeah, great there. I saw him. Very much an underrated Australian driver, Scott, and once again showed his skill as well. As I said, look, we could talk about this for hours and hours. I'm cramping up again. This is the longest time I've sat down since I actually got home. As I said, thank you to the people who assisted. Thanks to Doc for helping me get that bloody thing out of the place because it was going to.
No, I just had to morally support him and tell him to put his positive pants on a few times in the week, and we got through all right. That's all good. And I loved having you there as well, Brett. It's good. Right. We always don't see eye to eye and everything, but we make bloody things happen. Well, I won't swear. And to get that amount of footage ends up there for with the route since 2023, it's been 2 years. It's been that big. It's a record ever. It's getting anywhere near it. I think it was 53 then. So yeah, as I echo Brett and massively, it's a huge weekend. Everyone's friendly. The teams were just absolutely sensational. The amount of time I spent in the garages was just insane. As Brett said earlier, the Corvettes, we got to hear a few laps from the day. The sound of them was just awesome, the way they make their own. And just a huge shout out to all the people up at Bathurst, like Brett said. I just wanted that, how friendly they are, how accommodating they are, how every which way you look at. Excuse me, can I? And they go, absolutely. What do you want?
once again, because we mentioned it a couple of times now with Team WRT. Team WRT, remember, are the one of the biggest race teams in the world. They are the BMW factory WEC team. They are the BMW in both GT and hypercar racing. They are one of the most successful sports car organisations in the world. Luna, their PR person, was absolutely spectacularly good. Vince, the owner and it was just a lovely. And I've got to tell this for regular viewers of In Pit Lane, we were in the middle of our interview with Charles Wirtz, and the fire alarm went off. As is traditional on In Pit Lane.
On cue.
On cue, the fire alarm went off, and we were. So that's why we ended up.
Is there a stairwell?
There certainly was.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
and I just want to add one more thing to that as well.
I'm sorry to break it to you.
There's one more thing as well too along those lines. A bit of fun. No spoiler alert on this, but just again, Augusto Farfus, Vincent, the team principal, and I had a kick with the Sheridan football in the WRT lounge. I am not kidding. We have footage of this. We have, and you want to know who instigated it? It wasn't Augusto or myself. We were actually chatting, doing a sensible interview at the time, even though we had a few jokes and laughing around. Brett was doing an awesome job, cameraman. Suddenly, this Sheridan football comes from literally nowhere. I had no warning of it because I had my back to it. And Vince himself, the team principal co-owner, as Brett said, piffed it across from one of the WRT lounge to the other at us.
And I managed with my there just automatically at one stage the ball got loose. And like an just out of reflexes, I dived for the ball and really hurt myself badly. So it was, but they were lovely people, and to the supercar people and anybody else running that calls themselves a PR, if you want to see how to run PR for a professional motorsport organisation, be proactive, be friendly. Think about those words. Think about those letters. PR, public and press relations. The idea is that you make friends with everybody and you work together to promote the team, to promote the sport, to help each other out. That's what Luna did. That's what Team WRT did. They were fantastic. And look, I mean, well, when Doc said, I mean, how hard was it? Once you got to talk to Luna, because I tried to ring her and it was a Belgian number, of course, and I didn't have enough. Credits on my phone, so I said to Doc, I said, if you wander around, if you're anywhere near a WRT, go and see if you can find Luna and see if we can arrange some interviews. Doc, how hard and how many hoops did you have to jump through in order to get those?
One hoop. It was called two stairwells down to the WRT lounge. I'm keeping this short. I spoke to just any random person that actually didn't look busy, and I could have their attention, excuse myself, and they marched me straight to the trailers out the back, to Luna, who's having her lunch break, and they couldn't have been happier to see us and accommodate us and like that. So, and that wasn't the only thing. I have here in front of me, Brett knows about this, and it's going to be very hard because of the glare. So I grabbed one of those Spark models that were very rare in the dice. Brett, for your FYI, you know how they were slowly disappearing over the weekend? There was two left on the table that I was selling from the merchandise as I walked out on Sunday night. Late in the afternoon. So I KRC literally bought their own models from overseas and a few other little bits and pieces of merchandise, including hats, little fluffy toys, and also T-shirts. They got snapped up big time because they bought them from themselves in the container from overseas, and they gave them to the merchandise truck. And I was very lucky. You're going to get the glare. I put up the whole 3 signatures on the cellophane on the outside as well too. So I was wrapped for them, and they got 5th. So a little bit biased on that one, but I just want to bring it up at the end to get that signature too. Those signatures too. Literally walked into the garage. Straight away, 2 drivers were wrapped to do it, and the third one was out in the track. Said, "Come back in 15 minutes," and. I got marched to the trailer again, and the team manager as well, though, who handed over my little car to the driver, and while he was eating his lunch and dealing with data in the trailer, and said, "Can you sign for the gentleman, please?" So absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, top team. I was really impressed with everybody, with all of the team. But the Team WRT, probably a new favourite team now, above and beyond the Call of Duty. So fantastic guy. Hey, listen, I'm also coming up this week. I think it's this week. We got some boats down Werribee way as well. Some ocean racing.
Oh yeah, saw that.
So that'll be spread. So if you're over that side of the city. Have a look at those. Unfortunately, we missed out on. We had drag boat racing here locally on the week, but obviously we missed that. We also had a big meeting out at Calder Park, which I missed again. Apparently, got a massive turnout out there. So, but there is another meeting coming up on February 27th out at Calder Park. So make sure you get there. And if I still got a gig there, I'll say hello to you there. But supercars starting this weekend as well, so we've got it's all happening. It's ridiculous. Let's get out of here now because I'm desperate to go and take some painkillers and go to bed and have a nap. I got home yesterday at just after 4:30. I walked in. I locked the car. I walked in. I turned the air conditioner on. I had a very, very large drink. I took 2 painkillers. I went straight to bed and I slept for almost 14 hours. So, yeah.
Didn't do the same as you, actually. I unpacked for an hour and a half, a little bit, not all of it, and then went to sleep on the couch as well, too. So I was pretty similar to you. So.
And just to take it seriously because it is seriously, I fell asleep 3 times on the way home. I was on the wrong side of the road going the wrong way. I was very lucky that it was damn near a head on. It was just I came there. The guy was tooting his horn and flashing his lights at first. That meant I didn't see anything. I just went, oh shit. Pulled off the side. That's where I ended up at the Wombat pub. And that's what happens when you don't sleep for almost 5 days flat. As I say, I obviously loved the event. It was fabulous. Even the place I was staying there, I will never. My recommendation, if you're into that camping, I think you're a fucking idiot. It is the most ridiculous idea in history to go there. Get a motel if I can't get a motel next year. If I can't fly up there, I'm now sticking. I used to say it almost as a gag. It's not a gag anymore. If it takes more than 3 hours to get there, I fly or I don't go. End of story. I'm never doing that again. So, just be very careful. Don't be a hero and say, "Oh, I'm going to do it all in one go. I'm going to do it."
I always do it in one go.
Yeah, well, that's where you get in trouble.
Richard, I'm on your side too, and I drive for a living, so I'm a little bit more used to it too. So
yeah, you drive for, but yeah, no, I just think don't even try.
I have my guide dog. He's there. He gives me a nudge if I start wandering off the road.
Well, my guide dog.
He's even got his own helmet and race suit for when you're out in the XL.
Yeah. And he has those tablets he keeps taking.
One bark for left, 2 right.
What with the smiley faces on them? What rave party are you going to?
Yeah. But anyway, no, it was very nerve-wracking. I was very lucky to get back home alive. I put other people. Not just obviously.
At least you can say you wanted to do it, you did it, and you got away, with it. So it's never to be repeated again. I got away with it.
I was never to be repeated again. That's for sure. Okay, we'll see you. What it will be repeated again next week will be, and probably almost word for word, verbatim, will be Full Course Yellow. And as Doc said, we did shoot. I have not seen a single footage. I got some wonder. The only time I really, and this is how good this event is, the start of the race when they came out for the formation laps for about 35 minutes, I was just wow, and I went down to the dipper. I came up, and that's part of the problem. That's why my legs went with me. I walked because and I got some fabulous footage, or at least I think I've got some fabulous footage. So
I'll just do it before you sign off, Brett. I'll quickly do a postscript. That red flag, I was able to steal with a full approval of a white vest, so I was able to go all over the pit grid and out into the track while all the cars were lined up. I got some silly photos of Cam Waters laying down and all sorts of stuff like that. Gave Tommy Randall a pat on the back. I said, all I did was just literally, I didn't break stride, tapped him on the back and went, keep going, buddy. And he goes, I'm not done yet, which was a good positive sign, he said back to me as he walked past. Also had a chat to Rubens leaning on the fence a bit as well, too, and I had a laugh with Rubens, and he gave me a thank you as well, too. And, just hanging out and got some great photos and little chats, and had a chat to Reese from the PR down at Phillip Island. He had his blue vest on, so I was quite entitled to go out onto the track at the time and during the red. And so some good post stuff as well too. I don't want to mention it all last night. That's why I'm just finishing it off on tonight, so we don't go run the bus over the B12 next weekend. That red flag was a good break for everybody.
And once again, speaking to Tommy Randall, Tom, thanks a lot, mate. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Okay, let's get out of here. We'll see you.